People will resist it. It's true. Google the Arab Peace Initiative, 2002. Google it.
Camp David Accords, 2000. What happened with the Clinton parameters, 2001?
I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened. You know what? I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what happened. The former Israeli Foreign Minister, Shlomo Ben-Ami, who was there at Camp David, do you want to know what he said? He was there at Camp David. This is the foreign minister who made the Camp David offer. He said, if I were Palestinian, I would have rejected Camp David as well. You know why? Because he recognizes that Israel insisted on keeping the major West Bank settlement blocks that make a Palestinian state impossible.
That's not true.
That's the fundamental problem here. You don't treat Palestinians as equal human beings, and you reserve the right to steal their land, and that's why you're interrupting me, because you can't handle the truth. That's the problem here. Stop being a supremacist, stop stealing land, and you can have peace.
Buckle up, y'alls. What you're about to witness is one of the most explosive debates ever seen on Piers Morgan's show. Elica Laban steps in with a classic defense of Israeli policy, but Aaron isn't just pushing back, he's tearing it apart piece by piece. Aaron drops historical bombshells and undeniable facts that completely dismantles the mainstream narrative. But will the truth even matter when opposition is armed with interruptions, distractions, and outright distortions? This isn't just a debate, it's a clash of reality versus propaganda. Watch closely though, because once you see what Aaron exposes, you'll never look at this conflict the same way again. Let's get into it.
Piers, just go to 2024. Can I just say one quick thing?
Okay, let me bring in Wajahat, please.
Just one quick thing. One quick thing. Let's go to 2024. Let's just go to this year.
Yes.
Who has rejected 2 states? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Who has crossed every single one of President Biden's lines? Netanyahu. Who has said he's going to continue occupying the West Bank? Netanyahu. Who has said he's going to continue expanding settlements? Netanyahu. Who has put the worst, most extreme, radical, right-wing members of the Jewish public in his cabinet, people like Ben Gvir and Smotrich, who are openly genocidal? Prime Minister Netanyahu. Who has continued bombing civilians, like you mentioned, Piers, right? Told these Palestinians to go to the south, it's a safe zone, and bomb that safe zone? Netanyahu. There has been a peace deal on the table. President Biden announced it in the summer. He said it was Israel's plan. He said ceasefire, return of hostages, humanitarian aid. Who has rejected it since June? Netanyahu. Who is protesting Netanyahu? The family members of the hostages, because they realize he does not care. He does not care. And who is actually protesting this war in Lebanon? The family members of the hostages, because they realize if this war, God forbid, expands, it means that their family members won't come back. When there was a temporary ceasefire in November, 105 Israeli hostages came back. Since then, less than 10. And when all is said and done, Piers, most likely Israel will have accidentally killed more of its Israeli hostages through this war than it has saved. So the buck is right now with Netanyahu. And as we have discussed on your show, he's a corrupt criminal who has 80% of the public against him, mass protests, and he realizes if the war ends, he will have to resign, the government will fall apart, and he will most likely go to jail. So war we have, de-escalation through escalation. It's a recipe for genocidal madness.
Let me ask you a question. I have a question for you. That's actually a very important question. You're saying that this two-state solution should be accepted, okay? We've seen through this history of the occupation of the West Bank, first of all, the occupation has foiled
Thank you for admitting it.
At least 500 terrorist attacks in 2022. Now, before the Second Intifada, there were actually no checkpoints, okay? There were no checkpoints. And then after the Palestinians rejected the Camp David summit, which actually offered to remove the entire occupation, the settlements offered 2 states,
no, it
okay?
Didn't. That's such a lie. Even Israeli leaders don't say that. Even Israeli leaders don't. You're lying through your teeth. And there were checkpoints too, by the way.
You don't interrupt. After that, there was a second intifada. There was a second intifada that killed over 1,000 Israelis in Tel Aviv, and then the checkpoints were installed. Okay, so my question to you is that you want to end the occupation. Everyone wants to end the occupation. What is happening? In fact, one of those proposals was that the PLO would help to foil terrorist attacks going into Israel. You know why that's so important? Because of the topography of the land, where the West Bank is on a higher plane, okay, which is strategically at an advantage to throw rockets into Israel. And so Israel asked the PLO to collaborate with the Shin Bet to prevent those terrorist attacks happening. Now, you want a two-state solution. Let me ask you, from the jihadist perspectives, where is their commitment to stop the terrorism if the occupation is removed? Just like it was removed from Gaza, and then instantly Hamas started firing rockets back into Israel.
Yeah,
okay,
you see,
so
let me put that to Wajahat, because I think it's a reasonable question, because even if Israel did everything that you urge them to do, you're still left with Hamas and Hezbollah, two terror groups who are wedded via their charter. It's explicitly stated in both cases that they are wedded to the eradication of Israel. Nothing changes just because Israel decides to say,
Hamas
we
changed
end the
its charter,
occupation,
Piers.
we end
Hamas
this, we
changed
end
its
that,
charter,
we
Piers.
give you everything you want.
No, it
It's not
didn't.
going to change the ideology of
No,
people
it
that want to
didn't.
destroy them, is it? Or is it? Are Hamas and
Yeah, so
Hezbollah
it's a
suddenly
good
going to go,
question.
you know what? Thanks very much, we're now going to have peace. Makes no sense.
It's a good question. It's a good
They're
question.
living in La La Land.
Ending
if they
the
think that's what's
listen,
going on.
I'll answer
Let
it
Wajahat
in good
answer,
faith.
yeah.
I've always tried to answer in good faith. Ending the occupation will be the game changer. Giving people freedom will be a game changer. Everyone, every single person on earth that has ever been occupied has resisted the occupation. As you have seen, look, they first went after PLO. PLO got weakened. Then Hezbollah came. Suppose they destroy Hezbollah, which they won't. Suppose they'll destroy Hamas. It's been a year. They won't. It's the idea of a resistance. And I agree with you. They're acting in a way which is terroristic and also commits war crimes. The idea will persist as long as you keep occupying. The one thing Israel has never done is stop the occupation. And number two, throughout its entire history, especially even after Oslo, you know what's it's increased? Illegal settlements in the West Bank. What's the excuse? Hamas doesn't run the West Bank. It is expanding the West Bank settlements. And for those who don't know, imagine like Swiss cheese, right? There's holes in the Swiss cheese. The holes are the settlements expanding. What's left is this barely, you've seen this, Piers, you know the map, this pathetic small piece of land that's left for the Palestinians. So no matter what happens, I'm sorry to say this, Palestinians are screwed. Yet still they say, fine, give us this pathetic moth-eaten ridden land because you have expanded the settlements. We'll still take it. Give us freedom. At the end of the day, every single group on earth wants freedom. And that's the one thing Israel refuses to do.
Okay, let me bring in. Hang on. Let me bring in Fleur here.
Let them be free.
Let me bring in Fleur. Right. So I want to ask you this, Fleur. You can respond, but I want to ask you this: why should Palestinians not be afforded the exact same human rights as Israelis?
They want their land, or do they want to be part of Israel? That's my question to you.
No, I've asked you a question. Why should they not?
You've asked.
Why should they not, in principle?
Do they want their own state?
Why should they,
my question is,
Fleur,
do they
answer
want
the
this
question.
state?
Why should they not be entitled to the same human rights that you have and that I have?
They should.
But they don't
Says
have them.
shouldn't. Well, one second.
They
Let's
absolutely
talk
should,
about
but they
Oslo
need to
because we're talking.
Let Fleur
We're
talk.
talking like we're talking as if Israel hadn't tried 5 times already to create a state. That's how we're talking here. So what happened in Oslo? In Oslo,
Yes, because it's
the
not
West
true. They
Bank,
haven't.
Judea and
They never
Samaria. Okay, 1 second, rape denier. In Judea and Samaria, Judea and Samaria was split into area A, B, and C. The majority of Palestinian cities, where the majority of the Palestinian population live, are in area A's and B. The areas that we're talking about, really about Swiss cheese and all these metaphors that you all like to use, is area C, where the least amount of Palestinians live. Now, if they really wanted autonomy, and Tony Blair was here for about 10 years trying to create state institutions, and he failed. Why did he fail? Because you either have murderous terrorist groups or you have corruption. Why did Khania have $4 billion? Why does Mahmoud Abbas have private jets? Why are his sons billionaires? Why? Because all of the money that the West has given these entities, these government entities, to create a state, to start creating state institutions, to do better for their people, to create an economy, all of that has gone into the pocket. So what do we have? We have a Palestinian leadership which is either believes in the destruction of the state of Israel, or the ones who don't, they just steal. So what are you left with? I really want a Palestinian Mandela. I really want a Palestinian Gandhi. I want to live in peace. I don't want to rule another people, and nobody in Israel does. But what do we get every time we try to give a territorial compromise? We get terror cells and murder. What happened after the 2000 Oslo deal? What happened? What happened was the Second Intifada, with thousands of people, Jews and Arabs, in the city of Jerusalem, in my city, dead on the street, terrorism in cafes and in buses. Why did that happen? If the terms weren't great, then why didn't Arafat continue negotiating? And I'll tell you this, and I'll repeat it again, because the problem of this conflict is not that a Palestinian state doesn't exist. It's that a Jewish state exists, and they've never, ever ideologically accepted it. And why do I know? Because they keep telling me. Because they have charters, because that's their constitution.
Do you have Google?
And that's the educational system. And that's the media. Enough with Google. Don't you read anything else?
All right, listen.
Yeah, Google Arab League Peace Initiative.
Okay, listen.
Google Arab League. That's
Aaron,
the Arab League offering
And the
Israel full
Palestinians
normalization,
Hang on,
under the
everyone.
occupation.
Abraham
If
Accords,
you want
the
to talk about
Palestinians
Palestinian
rejected that
Mandelas,
too.
if you want to, excuse me. If you want to talk about Palestinian Mandelas, they exist. For example, in March 2018,
Where are they?
thousands of Palestinian Mandelas marched peacefully in Gaza in the Great March of Return, calling for their basic rights. What did Israel do? It gunned them down with snipers, maiming people,
They were
paralyzing them.
Hamas
That's the Palestinian
terrorists
Mandela.
they were
They're
not-
people of
Oh, you're
Gaza
saying
who've
that
been
the
besieged for
Palestinian
decades,
Mandelas
wanting their
in
basic
Hamas-
rights.
Are you saying the
You have
Palestinian Mandelas in Hamas?
complete-
Have you ever been to Gaza? Honestly, you people are
They're
talking
the
like
people.
armchair
Yes, I have been to
activists.
Gaza. Yes, I have.
Okay, sure.
I have been to Gaza actually, and
You know
I've met
what?
the
I can
people
answer your
there.
question.
who wanna
Lucky you're
live
not
in
a
peace.
woman then.
They've never
Thank
been
you.
given the chance. Okay, can I talk now?
No, they've
Can I
never
talk
been
now?
given the
I've
chance.
been to
2005 never
Gaza.
gave them that chance. Stop infantilizing the Palestinian
Okay,
leadership and their people.
I'm going to talk now. I'm going to speak now. You've had your time to spew your propaganda. I'll say it again. Israel has never accepted the fundamental premise that Palestinians have the right to self-determination. That's why it rejected multiple Arab League peace offers endorsed by Iran and Hamas, and members of Hamas, not all of them, but some of the leadership, including Ismail Haniyeh, calling for a Palestinian state in the West Bank and Gaza. That's a big compromise for Palestinians. That's just 22% of the land that you stole, which they're willing to accept. But Israel is so hell-bent on occupying and stealing land, it won't even accept a Palestinian surrender. You don't want a Palestinian Mandela. You want to keep subjugating Palestinians.
What are you talking about? You're living in your own planet where Islamic fundamentalism does not exist in your planet.
You're the fundamentalist who insists on stealing other
Where are
people's
you
land.
living?
You're the
Where are you
fundamentalist.
living?
Okay, time out.
And there you have it, folks. Another desperate attempt to rewrite history, justify occupation, and deflect from reality, completely shattered by facts. Let's be clear, Maté and Wajahat didn't just win this debate. They exposed the fundamental lies that keep this injustice alive. Number one, historical facts versus convenient lies. Fleur and Elica push the same tired narrative that Israel has tried to create peace and the Palestinians just won't accept it. Aaron demolishes that fantasy by quoting Israel's own foreign minister who admitted the Camp David offer was unacceptable. Even Israeli officials admit this too. So why is Elica still lying and yelling? Number two, occupation is the core issue. Wajahat laid it out perfectly. No matter what Palestinians do, peaceful protests, negotiation, or resistance, Israel keeps expanding settlements and rejecting peace deals for the greater Israel project. Fleur tried to twist this into an issue of terrorism, but how do you explain Israel rejecting the 2024 peace deal proposal by its own ally, the US? You can't. Netanyahu is the one blocking peace, full stop. Number three, the terror deflection exposed. Elica's biggest crutch? What about Hamas? Classic. But Aaron ripped through that excuse by pointing out that Israel was expanding settlements and stealing land even in the West Bank, where Hamas doesn't even rule. So what's the excuse there? Oh, right, there isn't one. Look, this debate wasn't about differing opinions. It was about truth versus propaganda. And I believe truth won. If you still think this is about security and not colonialism, ask yourself one thing. Why does Israel refuse to stop the occupation? Until that question is answered, nothing changes. But hey, drop your thoughts in the comment. Are we all seeing through this lies, or are we all delusionists? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, y'all, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Cheers.